Hello and good evening and welcome to a 19th of June webinar for Expats Portugal. And we are going to Cascais this evening, discover the charm of living there. And we've got expert speaker Wiley Lundqvist with us this evening. And we're going to go through where to live in this wonderful, wonderful part of Portugal. Cost of living there, getting around, whether to get a car or if it's possible to live on public transport or using public transport in Cascais. The community vibes, what's it like to be there? Well, he's definitely part of the community there, so we'll find out about the community atmosphere and what it's like to be somebody who lives locally in Cascais, schools and services, and leisure and lifestyle. So let me welcome to the stage Wiley Lundqvist. Good evening to you. It's been a while. Lovely to see you again, Wiley.
You. It's been, you know what, I've been part of this community for so long and you kind of come and go and weave in and out. And I just love weaving back in. It's so
Yeah,
great.
it's great to see you. It's like it was only yesterday, but it's been a while, hasn't it?
It has.
Yes. And how is Cascais this evening? I take it you are there.
I'm there.
Right.
It's my favorite place. What can I tell you? Of course. Why would I leave?
Right. Okay. Brilliant. And it looks lovely and sunny and bright. It looks like you've had a fabulous day there. So, if we can start with a little bit about you, your sort of personal background of how you got to be there, and tell us a bit about yourself before we get into the town itself.
Absolutely. In 2018, I think I'd made the decision to retire. I was living in Sweden, where I've lived more than half my life. And I got here and thought, you can only play for so long before you need something to sink your teeth into. And decided that as I was buying my own properties, I knew that there was something missing about a buyer's agent, but really a dedicated buyer's agent, not sometimes, if there are no houses to sell, but like a solid buyer's agent. And and so, since I had a real estate license in the United States, both in Connecticut and California, I figured I had something to bring to the table, since they really don't do licensing here and haven't since 2008. So I started my own business, and with the help of Jerry and Astrid and you, we got it off to a really good start, and then it's just been going wild since then. So it's been a ride. It's
Oh,
a
how
good ride.
lovely. Isn't that nice, Jerry, to have been a part of this? Fantastic, Wally. Thank you for that introduction to you and your work there. So let's have a look then. Most popular neighborhoods and maybe some of the secret up and coming or places people might not have heard about. You've got the obvious beachfront, haven't you, in Cascais? And going further away from the water, where it gets, I'm sure, very interesting. Tell us a little bit about that topography, geography around there.
Oh gosh, some of my favorite places are actually off beach because it's so busy in downtown Cascais that those of us who live here, we tend to kind of go backwards, especially during the tourist seasons.
Hmm.
And if you follow Ginshow and you go up the road, we go over towards Malvera and then we get up to Pedicera and down to Calores. Now we're in Sintra. We've gone through Alcabadesh. Um, More bang for your buck for the most part, unless you're looking at a view property. Um, a little quieter, also a little bit more wind, depending on where you are. There's microclimates, but refreshing, really. I have so many Swedish people that I know love being right on the cusp between Cascais and Sintra because you almost have three seasons, which is wild. Like I'll go over there. I was there, case in point, I left here was 31 degrees and got over there and it was 20 degrees over there.
Really?
Crazy difference, like
That's quite
11
a difference.
degrees just by kind of going over the bump. And here we were dripping. And so we brought sweaters with us because we figured kind of, sometimes it gets chilly at night. We got over there and we had to put our sweaters on around our shoulders because it was such a large difference. But eating outside, no heat, it was just gorgeous. So it's a place I run away to when it's too hot over here.
Okay, so quite some diversity then. It's not all one kind of experience in Cascais.
No, and people would suggest there's more humidity over there. I have clients who disagree, who've lived in Estoril. We've chosen to buy a house over there, and she said that when she leaves the house, her hair doesn't kind of, do the thing that your hair does when it hits too much humidity.
I remember those days.
It's much calmer. It's very bohemian cool, lots of young kind of individuals there and gardens and things that they can kind of play. And it's a more a lot of pine trees and flat areas and beachy kind of, it's great. I love Calarish. So that's definitely, but that's kind of the other side. And that's it. You have to go all in because it's hard to kind of go back and forth every single day. There's that one road. And the other road is going through downtown Sintra, which again, historic district, again, lots of tuk-tuks, tourism, and trying to wander through there to get to the highway to come to Cascais isn't usually that much of an option. So
Okay, good to know.
it's a dedication to go over there. But it's wonderful. So coming back over the hill, we have little areas called Almasagem, or we have areas called Zoya. Cabo de Roca is up there. We go through Bisses, Algueria, wonderful little towns, tiny little houses, tiny little town centers, not really a grocery store anywhere near there. So it's really out there. And then you get back into Malvera de Serra, which starts to become like life again with restaurants and grocery stores. And it's beautiful. So, and you
Lovely.
cross that over to Penelonga, and that's where we have Kazel over there and Tassis over there. Penelonga are kind of our country club like situation.
Yes.
Autodromo with the racetrack. Cash.
Wow. Okay.
So inside there is all of us. And it's really big and beautiful and easy to navigate. It just depends on what you're looking for.
Now, it's been a very popular place with foreigners and expats for a long time, but it sounds like there's still some Portuguese soul to be found,
Uh-huh.
authentic Portuguese living in and around Cascais,
Mm,
from how you describe it.
absolutely. I mean, I think there is that conversation that the Portuguese are feeling like they're getting pushed out, the prices are too high. But certainly, if they have property here, I mean, I know that they don't get to cash in on it until they sell it, but I mean, it's certainly valuable for them. And the neighborhoods are changing. We talked some years ago about curb appeal, how there's really not a
Oh,
lot of
yes.
curb appeal. People don't put money into the landscaping, shifting,
Is
changing.
it?
Yeah,
Interesting,
nice.
interesting. Yeah, what difference a few years makes. Good evening to George, who's with us, Debbie in Coimbra, Diana in Massachusetts this evening. Denise is here as well. Good to see you. Laronda, we've already said hello to. MI, Charlie, just to name a few here. Thank you for introducing yourself, Charlie, in the chat. Michael's here. Good to see you. And Zita is asking, could someone in the know add the names of the neighborhoods that are being mentioned? We'll make sure that happens, Zita. Don't worry, because we'll have our time that's not recorded with Wiley, and we'll make sure all of those names are included. So don't worry about that. We'll get to those. And it would be nice to show everything on a map. Well, George, we could possibly do that in the non-recorded part as well. And this is a special bonus for you premium members. So sign up if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you sign up at expatsportugal.com. Yes, so don't worry, Zita, we'll get to that. Let's move on then now to cost of living, Wiley. Very popular place to live, not the cheapest place to live in Portugal, but how do you approach that?
Oh, I mean, it's really client based. I mean, it's some people cut here and say it's really less expensive than where they live in the United States. And so
Right.
that's a non-conversation for them. Um,
Yep.
one of the ways it's less expensive is you get hit by this one huge tax when you buy a house called IMT, which is the transfer tax, and you can't really get around it. But conversely, you don't have the property taxes that you have on a yearly basis in the United States, where people can go bankrupt in property taxes. That doesn't happen here. So
Yeah.
even though there's that big thing happening in the beginning, it doesn't continue. So it's just that one, and then when you're past it, you're
Cost
so
of living.
with cost of living, to your point, I mean, groceries, if we stay with there, groceries and cars, I think it's a plus minus situation, really. I don't know, maybe a secondhand market. But electricity can be very expensive here. Gas can be quite expensive here. Uh,
Mhm.
but food, not so much. And Carl, I mean, when we first started, we could go to a restaurant and order a €4 bottle of wine and a €5 bottle of wine. They're not really they're not on the list any longer. Those have become
Right.
10, €12 bottle of wine. So the food has increased in the restaurants, I would have to say. And it's surprising.
Yes.
Even
However, if you know where to shop in terms of food for home, you can certainly save money and enjoy some of that great relativity.
Oh, it's amazing. Because
Yeah.
here in my Mercado here, the farmers market, and I think very many towns do have the farmers markets. I can go in and buy just a huge pile of greens, and they'll say like €8 to me. I'm in the organic market
Yes.
outdoors. Compared to Santa Monica, California, the organic market, you have to sell your plasma. Here, you can really just go ahead and, it's less than a €10 just to get that. And it's amazing, amazing
Yeah.
to me what you can eat here for if you like to cook at home. But once
Yes.
again, when the tourists are in town, it's really nice to cook at home. And
Yeah.
with that farmers market, which is for us on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and only they're organic on Saturdays, there's really nowhere else to go. It's spectacular. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the eggs straight from the eggs from the chickens. There's no middleman. There's no stamp on them.
If you know who to ask, right? Campanero, is it? Or yes, the Caseiro, Elvush Caseiro, I think. And you'll get those very fresh eggs from the farm. Excellent. And somebody sent me a picture actually from Florida saying, I hope it's cheaper in Portugal. They sent me a receipt. They paid for 5 peaches and 5 bananas, $8.32. So I thought I would go and buy exactly the same thing at my local Mercado Municipal here in San Martino de Porto, and it was €4.44. And I would also suspect that the peaches were a little bit sweeter and more delicious as well. I mean, that's my experience coming from the UK. That all the fruits just seems to be twice as sweet here.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. And no frequent flyer mileage. So it's amazing to eat locally
Yes,
here. And
wonderful.
what's interesting is with the Mercado, it depends on the time of year that you go in, but certain
Yeah,
times of year, I can't get everything that I could get at any of the larger chains. And I'm okay with that
yeah.
because if we're eating with the seasons, you go in and they're just figs. And then 2 weeks later, they're a little browner figs. And then 2 weeks later, they're kind of the black figs. And 2 weeks later, they're gone. And
Well, thanks to Jerry, nobody eats figs anymore, but I get the point. I get.
did you say something about the fly that's in there?
Yes, he did. The
Uh,
flaggots, did you call them? What's that?
They're
Jerry.
dead. They're
Yeah.
dead flies inside the figs, right? Those crunchy bits. They're dead flies, right?
That's a fly crossed with a maggot, a flaggot. I'm guessing
I've
you're
never
saying.
seen one.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's move on from that. I think they're still delicious, and I just block that out when I'm eating the many beautiful types of figs that you can get here in Europe, and especially in Portugal. And hot off the tree as well. That's such a treat. Anyway, you mentioned tourist season in Cascais and how it gets a bit busy. When is that?
It starts kind of after Easter.
Right. Okay.
What's interesting is the beaches open back up. So prior to Easter, there's no lifeguards on the beach, which means you can have your dog on the beach all day long, which is fabulous. And they actually increase the cost of parking. So all the beachfront parking, the meters increase during tourist season and decrease when it finishes. And so when does it finish? When the kids come into school, more or less. So September?
Yes. Okay, so that's your tourist, your peak season, but still a lot of time to enjoy it as a local outside of that, on the shoulders, I think, as they call it in the industry. Amazing. Okay.
And I mean, I can stay at the end of a pier and look kind of from here down towards Lisbon, and it's just wall to wall human beings on the beach.
Yeah.
But if I know the area, then I'll find a beach that's completely empty. You just have to know which beaches to go to because the tourists don't end up there. So there's absolutely beaches to go to, without having heave with and the Brazilian bathing suits. You have to go anyway. You have to go just to look at it because it's crazy.
Brazilian bathing suits. Okay, so this sort of information, I think you probably have to consult Wiley directly. Find Wiley in the business directory of expatsportugal.com. So that's the tourist season. Good to know. And we're getting a lot of insider information, obviously, because Wiley lives there as well as helps people to move there. Getting around, transportation. How's that? That's one of the great benefits, I think, for people living in Cascais. They get free transport, don't they?
So true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the buses are great. They're now the smaller buses and they zip through town and it's amazing where you can't go. I mean, you can really go anywhere. And I always love to tell the story about wanting to have lunch in Porto. So I go over to the Flix bus right by Cascais Shopping for like €12. You get on this bus and it takes you up to Porto in about 4 hours. So I'm there, I leave at 7:30. I'm there by 11:30, have lunch with friends, have a late coffee with friends, get back on the 7:30. I'm home by 11:30 at night. It's a fun day for €24 on transport.
That sounds amazing. Very, very nice. Very
There's
nice.
many ways to do that. There's a high-speed train, but if we go more local, for example, if you want to send, like, if I send a driver to pick my kids up at the airport, €38 to have my kids picked up at the airport by a driver who's parked a car, gone into Starbucks and waits for them. You know, if they
VIP treatment for €38. Very nice.
because one time I got off the plane and I was trying to call Uber or Bolt and it was €80 because I gotten in at 5 in the morning. And so it was still kind of, in Lisbon, it's still peak.
Yes.
Euros they wanted to drive me home. So I've never taken an Uber or Bolt since then. But just getting into Lisbon to have dinner with friends, always an Uber or a Bolt, which is less expensive. And it runs in about 20, €21 without parking, without tolls, without, being able to do whatever you need to do while you're still in the car. Such a great thing. If I wasn't in business, I'd have a Vespa and an Uber card. Like that would be it.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting visual, isn't it? Like whizzing about Cascais on a Vespa. Fantastic. Lovely in the summertime. And that drive in from Cascais to the capital is wonderful as well, isn't it? Very atmospheric, the twinkly lights going towards the Vinti St. Gabriel Bridge. A great journey into town.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so, what's happening in Lisbon, which is my biggest complaint when I got here, was the culture's great, but I love a musical, and they didn't have them. And then Phantom of the Opera came in, or was it Cats also? Michael, who was it? It was Cats, right? Phantom of the Opera, and then recently Mamma Mia was here. So they're starting.
Did you go?
I went to Mamma Mia. I might have gone in full sparkle, but it was awesome. It was spectacular, amazing.
Wonderful. And you can get a train as well, can't you, along that the water's edge there, right into Coast de Sodre, I think.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. And I'm sure that's very good value as well on the train. Now, is it impossible having a car if you live in central Cascais?
It's no fun parking.
Right.
Even I sometimes have to go in my neighborhood 3 or 4 times,
Okay.
and I have a driveway which people like to park in. So yeah,
Okay.
it's really difficult. Even harder being in the historic district. Oh, well, in the historic district, you can't even be there unless you're a resident. You have to have a resident card. If you don't have a parking space, there's a resident card. And if you do have a parking space, you don't get a resident card because you're not supposed to park on the street. You have to park in your own garage.
Okay.
So, but having people visit you there, they have to kind of park out of the perimeter of the residential area and walk in. So it's limited parking in the downtown historic area. But yeah,
Oh, okay. But it can be done, or you could mix and match, rent a car when you need one, and use that wonderful public transport that you've spoken about. But if you do want a car, as you have one, it's doable.
and rent-a-cars are also very, very, very price worthy.
Right. Okay. Very good. Good to know. Okay. Community vibes. Then, what's it like to live there? What is the atmosphere? Expat, local, authentic. How do you approach that? And what is there to enjoy from a pastime and hobby point of view? I know you're. Is it paddle or pickle?
Oh
Paddle.
my gosh, you have such a good memory. It was paddle.
Yes.
I was kind of an addict, I have to admit to it. But there's no Paddle Anonymous, so I had to quit.
Did
And
you? You just went cold turkey on the paddle.
I did.
Right.
I did. Do you know, it was interesting when we first got here in 2018 and paddle was new to all of us. There was a big surge of Swedes that came in at 2018. And we were paying 4 days a week, 5 days a week. And it was just you'd call three other friends and you'd show up. The prices are incredible.
Hmm.
It's like 40 euros for an hour and a half on a paddle court. It's one of the least expensive things you can even do. And paddle's a great game. So much fun. In America, it's called padel, and it's just kind of starting. It's really more of a European sport. They call it padel because we have something called winter paddle in the United States, and so they don't want to confuse the two. Pickleball is been here. We had two courts at Awarish Paddle Academy, OPA, and I think one shut down because they wanted a little bit more space for paddle. So pickleball, I think there was only one court there. And then Estoril, last I was there, was actually building three of them. So when you go to Estoril Tennis, they have World Tennis every year, which is great. And now they're going to have three pickleball courts, and they have four paddle courts, and I don't know, maybe five indoor tennis courts and five outdoor tennis courts. So it's kind of become this huge paddle center. But it is something that changed because someone introduced an app, and now you have to register all your scores. And so next time you go into play, if you won all your games, you can't play with your friends anymore because they're over here and you went here, and now you're playing with people you don't know, and you want to
Oh,
play with
okay.
friends, but they won't. The algorithm won't let you. So that's when
Really?
I stopped playing.
Oh, okay. And did you take up something else, or have you sort of gone
Yoga,
over to the pickle side?
yoga.
Oh, okay, yoga. So, but suffice to say, there are plenty of things to do
Oh
in
my
terms
gosh.
of
Whether you do yoga out on the piers, there's
yes.
yoga here every morning. There's Tai Chi by the water. There's wonderful there's some waterfront gyms dotting along the Paradão. There's PTs there that are available. There's group classes. It's just amazing what you can do.
Mhm.
In the grass areas, there's more Tai Chi. There's somatic training. There's so many incredible things. Then there's paddle and pickleball and tennis and golf. And I think the only thing we don't have here really is polo.
Okay, yes, that's probably more of a central Portugal Golgal thing, isn't it? With you like horseback polo, not water polo, right? Okay, I'm sure you've got water polo in the water at certain times of the year. So
Well,
amazing.
yeah, we have beautiful swimming pools, indoor or outdoor.
Yeah.
We have two or three Olympic pools and many semi-Olympic pools. So it's really if you're a swimmer, indoor or outdoor, tons of swimming in the Cascais Bay. There's little orange things that follow them. We have the Ironman that comes up every year.
Oh
Such
yes.
a vibe. So I did it. I don't know if you remember. I did it in
Yeah,
2019.
absolutely.
And so it's a huge, beautiful vibe. It's wonderful. But I mean, it's like the Cascais increases by 5,000 people in a weekend, if not more. And then they just leave. And then that's kind of the last thing that happens. And then all the tourists leave and it's quiet. So but it's a
Incredible.
beautiful thing. There's
So
lots of ways to play here.
and so extending that in terms of a social life, integration, meetups, what's that like for people who are arriving?
Julie Buck does a great group with Expats Cascais where she has Expat EC, Expat Cascais meetings on a monthly basis. And they meet at wonderful venues. I think that recently they've been at the Palarego Museum and
Oh,
they bring
cool.
speakers or they'll have themes. And it's a great, I mean, anybody who comes in, I would suggest you start there because
Right.
you'll find like-minded individuals also who just got here.
Yeah.
And now they're doing down at the marina, it's really changed. They're doing after works, they're doing live music, and it's a melting pot of everyone getting together just to listen to live music. A lot of the restaurants are now bringing in troubadours, and so people are showing up also to eat, but really to listen to the music afterwards. So another great place to meet people. Language classes, easy to meet people during your language classes.
Mm.
We're all starting at the same place, right? So everyone starts at like A. So all the newbies show up and that's really a great way. I have friends who I've had for years from the first language class I took. So it's wonderful to do it like that. Meetups. So many, you were talking about a meetup earlier today. So many
Mm.
meetups. So it doesn't matter what you're interested in. If you throw pottery or if you are a calligraphy person or if you want to create origami, there's literally something for everybody involved. And the beauty of it is, if there's not, you can start it.
You start it. Amazing. Okay. What this is a good question from Zita. What about meeting and befriending locals? Have you found that to be easy or challenging? Yes, good question.
I think I'd have a different answer if I didn't experience paddle because paddle really does breach all everybody who can play does play. And
Yeah.
so you're in the court with someone from France or Germany or Romania or Ukraine or Portugal. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing who gathers there. So I think every meeting is going to have a melting pot of individuals. And so if you've got sporty Portuguese people, you're going to meet them there. And
Yes.
there's lots of, in Lisbon, there's these outdoor movie nights. And last time I went there, I heard so many languages. So it's, again, you just lean in when you hear someone speak your language and just befriend them. And I
Yeah.
think everybody wants to be friends because they all want to create their tribe. And it's
Yes.
a matter of just finding it. So yeah, I don't think it's hard, but I also got here at the same time all the Swedes got here. So like that's my posse.
That happens, doesn't it? And you can sort of, it's like first week, freshers week, isn't it? You kind of,
Exactly.
you hang out with the people you met when you first arrived, don't you? Until things change or you make an effort to do otherwise. So there you go. Hope that helps you to there.
It's not just effort. I mean, we have to be straightforward about the fact that you do have to put yourself out there.
Yes, absolutely. Schools and services then, obviously with Cascais being, I think the first big expat community there was it the UN? There's a big military presence, isn't there? Or that
NATO,
was, say again?
NATO.
Oh, NATO, I beg your pardon. Yeah, so there was a NATO center or facility there, and that was a big foreign community, wasn't it? So schools presumably would have arisen as a result of that, international schools and
True. Oh my goodness. I mean, since I've gotten here, there's probably double as many international schools as there were before. And let's go back to cost of living. Really, what people are telling me, my children are not school age, that it's like 50% of the private schools in the United States. So again, it feels expensive, but they all say it's not.
yeah,
So it's really easy, I think, for a cost of living to be involved in many of those different uh, um, what's the word? Communities and
yes,
and make friends that way.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, communities.
And you'd be able to access the Portuguese public school system as well. You've helped families move to Cascais in Portugal, of course.
Yeah, I mean we can go in and we can meet but I mean that's so well set up. My goodness. It's
Yeah.
it's it's really it's easy. And there's there are a lot of waiting lists. So start early if you're going to look at schools. Really start early. I had a friend. She became my friend, a client who came here, and she she was homeless for 2 days. She had to leave an Airbnb and before she got into her rental. So I invited her to live with me, and we had a coffee
Quite a
with.
good service.
I know. It's like, it doesn't happen with everyone. But my
Right.
next door neighbor came over for coffee who was American and sat her down and said, I've been a substitute teacher at this school, this school, this school, this school, this school. And if my kids were children's age, no questions asked, it's this school. And she
Yes.
was kind of teetering between three. And that day she signed into that school and sends thank you letters every day. Like
Wonderful.
it was the best fit for her. So, but again, find your tribe. Every school has their own personality.
Okay, wonderful. Anything else then, Wally, that I haven't asked you? I mean, we've covered the social life. It would be good to look at maybe a little bit more about the country club you mentioned, the organic produce market, some of the things that haven't been talked about so far. What have I missed? What have I not asked you about that you'd like to tell everybody about?
Oh my gosh. There's we talked about the cultural scene that's in Lisbon. But I do have to say that one of the things that Cascais does so beautifully is they constantly make it interesting to be here and not travel into Lisbon. So we have the EDP Cool Jazz Festival. Like Nora Jones comes in, Diana Krall comes in, Seal is coming in, Tom
Oh, yes, I saw that.
yeah. So I mean there's some people who are or even Tom Jones, right? So but last weekend there was a DJ festival in Park Machal. So like it was like dueling DJs for like
Oh,
3 days.
really?
They have Festas de Mar with fireworks at the end and all these Portuguese singers coming in there, and it's gorgeous. When we had the VM in the soccer finals, they put together this massive TV where they have the Ferris wheel in the winter
Oh,
and
yeah.
all these picnic tables, all these beer gardens. It was wonderful. They used to
Yeah.
have Harley Davidson week. They have classic car week. They make sure, cash guys make sure that the restaurants and hotels never are in trouble. Like they're constantly creating wonderful things to do. So it's just a matter of getting into town and seeing the vibe in town because it's really alive
It
and
is. Yeah.
really done such a good job. And they're really upping their game when it comes to the flora and fauna. I mean, the roundabouts are beautiful, the olive trees, the lighting, they've changed so much. So at Christmas, they put up this like 5 meter plastic elf that says Christmas is Cascais, and he was on a roundabout right in front of Auchan. And I was embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like we've gotten way too commercial. And I don't think I was the only one who felt that way because it was gone in 24 hours.
Really.
They took it down and put up a Christmas tree. So I think that
Wiley, now hold on a minute. What is it about you and gnomes and elves? There's a theme developing here. Do you remember?
I do. So
Okay.
the story that for you that don't know is when I was looking for an apartment, someone drove me to a house and there was gnomes in front, and I said I won't get out of the car. And she's like, you have
Oh,
to come and see this apartment. I'm like, no, there's lawn ornaments. I'm not getting out. And so, but I went in and I bought it. So I'm so grateful that I looked past them. But
right.
yeah, there's something for everyone here. No worries.
That's the gnome chapter, isn't it, in the autobiography? I'm not
No,
kidding
but
that. That's
I'm the
hilarious.
only one who didn't like this elf. It was bad. It was
Okay, all right, fair enough. Great. Now, when is the jazz festival? That's coming up. So that's a summer thing, isn't it? When Seal's over
Yeah,
as part of that.
Seal, someone just offered me a ticket. July 12th is Seal.
Amazing, amazing.
It's first or second week of July.
Okay.
And there's something to do at all times. And the Autodromo, so there's lots of
Yes.
car stuff going on, which is really loud, but nonetheless, it's temporary. There's just, gosh, I can't think of anything there's not to do. Once again, the only thing you can't do here is polo. Everything else you're going to find.
It's only a matter of time, Wiley. And a great question from MI here, which is quite useful if we're talking about sort of jazz open air. What's the weather like, winter and summer? Can you give us a sense of the weather throughout the year?
Oh gosh, absolutely. So we rocked in around 28, 29 here. We had a late summer this year. It was a very chilly winter, which is
Yeah.
unusual. I had the heater on more often than I've ever had since I moved here. So I've been here 7 years. So I don't know if that's a trend. So I can no longer say that it's this, like I grew up in Connecticut and there's 4 identical seasons. Like every 3 months we get a new season. it's usually been kind of a winter summer situation, but we definitely had a fall and a spring this year. So, which
Mm.
I love, because who doesn't love a sweater? So it's been great, but it's been different with reference to the temperature.
What
Cold.
about highs and lows then? What's the coldest it's going to be in the winter?
What are we rocking at? 11, maybe?
Oh, okay. Freezing. You're right. And
Okay.
then in the summer,
Sweden. No.
you've got the marine effect, haven't you? Maritime effect. So it's not going to get into the like high 30s and 40s. I wouldn't have thought in Cascais. What's your high in summer?
No, and I'm going to say probably 30. And the God love the Portuguese. They're like, oh, it's a little chilly. So they just get in their car and they're in Algarve and they're like, oh, 40, we're so happy here.
Much better. Yes, okay. Away
Conversely,
from
you can
freezing
do the same
Cascais.
thing up in Porto. You can go up there and get a little chilly if you want to. So, or go inland. So you can do anything you want. Within a couple hours, you can be cold or you can be warm. But
So
this
true.
it's the moderate temperature right here because Cascais is perfect. So that's why I care.
Yeah, just in case you didn't catch that from Wiley's description.
I know.
So tell us, I mean, obviously with property, finding property, it's a very competitive market. How do you help with that? What's your MO, Wiley, when you're helping people as a buyer's agent?
Gosh, I hope it's listening. I mean, I hope it's really kind of reading them and finding out what's going on when they walk into each property. And also being really honest about the properties because I think it's easy to romanticize a property. But I think I definitely point out the negatives, because I want them to know. I
Yeah,
don't, I've seen so many people who are like, nobody told me. I didn't know. I didn't know about the humidity issues. And I want to make sure that in every house, I'm like pointing out like there's some humidity there and this is really beaten up here and this is going to be redone here. And hopefully I keep people, honest about the fact that, it doesn't cost a little bit to renovate anymore. And it's a process. We've all
yeah,
read about the horror stories of builds. Thankfully, I have my own build and I've never had a problem like that. My builder is amazing, but that's not
great.
for everybody. So I think that I hope that I listen to people and that I take a lot of time to be with them and really and really make sure that I hopefully show them something outside of what they've asked for to see if I can, what I'm listening to and what I'm seeing may be two different things. And so sometimes show them the thing that maybe they don't know they're looking for.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
Certainly recommend, areas that feel like they would feel at home in those neighborhoods and then talk about neighborhoods that, that are a minute away but are now really popular. And on the other side of the A5 over in Al Kabadesh, those areas closer to the mountain, closer to Ginshow, they're more family oriented, but you do get a lot more for your money out there.
yes, yeah,
So yeah, I think I hope I'm listening, and I hope that that they recognize that that I really am fighting for them
yeah.
in any type of negotiation. That I really want to make sure that they feel as though they're supported. I have a really good team. I love my lawyer. I love my builder. I love my inspection team. So I love, bringing that kind of trifecta in.
Yes.
Also, I'm one of the buyer's agents that doesn't charge. So it's free.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good to know. And Michael, you have an instant testimonial here. Michael says she's telling the truth. She sees the positives and negatives and keeps you informed. So there you go, an all-round picture because she's working for you specifically. She's a great advocate, says Michael there. Is it too impossible to say what the roughly speaking T2 cost is? That's a question that's come in as well. Sounds like Cascais is pretty upscale. What's the average rent for a T2? There aren't averages, are there?
Which rent or average purchase?
Average. Let's do both. I mean, there's too much in that bandwidth, isn't there? Really, to make
Oh, it's so hard. I mean, does it have heat or AC? That changes. Does it have an
yeah,
ocean view? It changes. Does it have a
yes,
garage? It changes. I mean, it used to be 1,000 a room. So if it was a T2, it was 2,000-ish.
okay,
But someone just asked me to put a T2 out there for 3,800.
right,
So that's hard. And then I just listed a T2, about 150 square meters, and that was lifted for 980.
yeah,
So, although negotiable, I think everything is moderately negotiable. That's kind of where the prices are. So
very good. Thank you for that. It's difficult to say, but I think that's a fair little spotlight there on some instances to give people an idea. And finally, then, before we thank you for a great conversation this evening about Cascais and your love of the place, how to contact you can find Wiley in the Expats Portugal business directory. Emma, thank you for asking that question. So thanks again, Wiley. Thank you for being here. We'll stick around and answer a few more of the more personal questions from our Expats Portugal Premium members in just a moment. But is there anything else you'd like to say as we conclude the recording here? Last word to you.
I hope you guys end up here. It's really a beautiful place.
Very nice, very nice. And Debbie, excellent presentation. Thanks so much, Wiley. Wonderful. Thank you, Wiley.